to Sport Exposure Podcast. Thank you for stopping by. We have a very important guest today, Mr. Donovan Cotton, all the way from Tampa Bay. As you know, welcome back to Sport Exposure Podcast. We are here to tell sport stories. We're here to tell our sport experiences. We're here to talk about our journeys to how we got to where we are. So introduce yourself and tell us where you're coming from, your position, all of that.
Yeah, so thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
My name's Donovan Cotton. Right now I'm a Southwest area scout for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, kind of in one sentence, that just means I evaluate college football players for the NFL draft, right? So, a lot of details with that I'm sure we'll get into. But I attended Hampton High School.
Crabber Pride.
Absolutely. And then went on to Norfolk State, where I played football there, as well as Hampton High School. And then, it was always my goal to be a scout in the NFL and kind of work up the ranks that way, just to, really team building is how I think of it, right? And just building championship teams. So I'm been fortunate to be a part of that process, and it started all the way back while I was in school. But
Absolutely. So we're going to get into that.
Mm-hmm.
So first and foremost, sport exposure is about celebrating triumphs and learning from defeat. So when you hear that, in pertaining to your journey and your experiences, what comes to mind when you hear that? Celebrating triumphs and learning from defeat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my kind of line I always think about is expect adversity and expect to overcome it, because I guess the first thing that comes to mind is just how I got in the NFL, because, it's something that started my sophomore year at Norfolk State. And I told my position coach at the time what I wanted to do. And he was like, oh, that's cool. But no one really knew anyone who had ever done it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up reading a book, and it was called The Draft. And the author was Pete Williams, but it followed a scout around for a full year. And so I read the book, and I'm like, is this real?
As a sophomore?
Yeah, yeah. And so I read the book, and thought to myself, like, there's a job where I can just travel the country and watch football. Like, it sounded too good to be true.
Right.
And so I, the only way I figured I could contact people was through the mail and through letters. And so I began my sophomore year, and to answer your question, what comes to mind is I began my sophomore year writing letters, and did that for the next 4 years. And just, in my mind, I said, because really, most of them don't respond. And if they do respond, it's like, sorry, we don't have anything at this time, because I was just writing the A to introduce myself.
That's still a small win, though, if they respond.
Right. And so, that's exactly I would take it. And then, after a couple of years, I just made it a game. Like, there has to be a yes out there somewhere, And I figured I need to hurry up and get through as many no's as possible to find that yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
So how long did that process take you? Did you go directly from college to get the position that you wanted to, or?
Somewhat I
know it was
did.
a process. Just walk me through that process.
Yeah. Well, so yes, okay. So all the years, sophomore, junior, and senior year, just writing letters. I would say once every other month, right? Just kind of introduce myself.
Would it be to a different person?
So
how'd you pick who you were sending letters to?
Good question. So I would write to the general managers and directors of scouting, right? Because I figured those are the people that did the hiring,
right?
And so always figure like, hey, I'm gonna go to the person that if they like me for some reason, they can say yes, right? And so so after 3 years of doing that, I was actually finishing up my last semester of summer school and gonna graduate, and I got a phone call, and it was then from a guy named Tom Telesco, who's now the GM of the Chargers. But then he worked for the Colts. So we had a very brief conversation, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And he said, I'm going to send you a test. And now I know, it was kind of like an aptitude personality test mix. And I never heard from him again. So maybe I didn't pass that one. I don't know. But then I got another phone call from a guy named Reggie McKenzie. And he's actually the assistant GM with the Dolphins right now, I think. But then he's with the Packers. And so funny, when he called me, he said, hey, I have all these letters from you over the past years. Like, what do you want? Yeah. Like, what do you? And I said, hey, I just want an opportunity. And he said, look, usually we don't hire guys right out of college like you are, but I'll let you come for an interview. It's going to be 10 to 12, 14 people there, and just do your best. But at least you'll be exposed to it, So he kind of tried to temper my expectations. Like, hey, I'll bring you up here because, maybe show some persistence. And then I went up there and I got it. And then so I ended up moving right from Norfolk State right to Green Bay.
So did you know during your time at Norfolk State that you didn't want to play professionally? Did you know that from jump? Like, when did you find out that you wanted to work in the sports profession instead of playing in the sports profession?
Well, I guess the first person I evaluated was myself, right? And I wasn't an NFL level player, right? And I mean, I was a role player at Norfolk State and I loved it, but I knew I was an NFL talent. And so, I just kind of, while I was playing, turned my mind to, okay, how can I continue this in the future? Which is, it's really hard for a lot of athletes to do, right? Because you have to have the confidence.
Right.
But you have to have perspective too, and, I was a decent role player on my team, like I wasn't like the main starter or anything. But I played a role and so I just knew like, hey, you're probably not NFL talent, and I grew up with some other athletes that were in the area. I mean, heck, Tyrod Taylor, I played with him in high school.
You kind of knew the difference.
Well, I knew he was probably NFL talent, right? And we played against Percy Harvin, right? And these guys were clearly bigger, stronger, faster than me. Mm-hmm. And so, I just knew like, how can I make this still my lifelong journey? And just the aspect of building a team that can possibly win the Super Bowl just sounded like that would be amazing. And so, that's kind of how I first turned my eye to it.
Wow, what a journey. What a journey. Beyond your role with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a scout, who was Donovan Cotton as an individual? What aspects of your personality and life define you outside of your role as an NFL scout?
Right. Well, I mean, I think some of that stuff is foundational and some is ever evolving. So I mean, I would define myself just as a very passionate person. I love to pursue and achieve my goals, and then, I'm a husband, I'm a father to 2 kids, so
family man.
Yeah. And so, just kind of all that encapsulates, and you're always evolving in terms of what you're pursuing. But I think just having the foundational things of persistence and hard work and achievement and continual learning have been the things that have put me in position, right? Because but I mean, I've made some progress, but it's still,
still a lot more to go, right? So where would you say that you gained that foundation from? Where did that come from?
For me personally, it was single-handedly from reading. Wow. My father, he drilled it in my head. And actually a funny story. So I've loved football since I could like ever remember, right? And there was one day where he he made me read a book. It was in the 5th grade. And
so
I read
a reader.
Yeah. He kind of forced that upon, the whole family.
It's a good skill to have. A lot of us didn't get that.
Right. And I really took to it. And, because it allows you to see so much more than whatever your daily life is, right? Because, just by time, we're limited to what we can see, right? And the stories we can hear. And so, but just on that story, so he made me read a book, and it was a book by Ben Carson. I think it wasn't Gifted Hands. It was,
Ben Carson.
Yeah. So, I mean, and then he was the first doctor that ever separated the head of Siamese twins, right? And they lived. And so, so he made me read the book, and he said you have to write a 12-page book report on everything you learned on it.
This is your father.
Yeah.
This is not school related.
No. That's school related.
12 pages?
Yeah.
5th grade?
Yeah. And so I halfway wrote it.
Was that double space?
Right. I halfway wrote it, just trying to get to practice.
All right. And
I gave it to him, and he was like, I can't read this. You're not going to practice. And that just killed me. And he said, so, do whatever you got to do, but it needs to be legible so I can read it. And I missed practice that day, and I've never missed another practice because I did all my book reports on time because I never wanted to miss. But at the same time, what I got from it was that now I was taking journeys with other people, and they had all been successful, right? But they all had so much adversity. And over the years, it kind of taught me, hey, on this journey, adversity is a part of success. Like, nothing is wrong because you because you're not the starter or because, you know, you're not in the place you want to be, that's a part of what's going to make you successful in the end, right? And it taught me that at an early age. And so, you know, even from being a walk-on at Norfolk State, I knew nothing was wrong. You know, I just had to work and I was going to gain other skills, which were the same skills that ended up helping me get the internship in Green Bay. Because being a walk-on, I used to sit in all the position rooms so I could learn what everyone was doing on the field. So years later, when I go on my internship, they say, man, how do you know how to evaluate offensive line? Well, it's because I was a walk-on at Norfolk State and I used to not want to make any mistakes at practice. But so everything then, which, you know, like at the time, I don't know that this is going to help me here.
Right.
But it did in the end. And so, you know, just, yeah, for me, it's been single-handedly reading. And it's something that now I probably read a book a week. It's audiobooks now, just it's time.
Yeah.
But, you know, I just read for an hour a day, you know, so at least get 7 hours a week, which is about a book and an audiobook. And, you know, it's the single most game-changing thing ever. You know, because I'm always taking the best ideas from everyone. And
that's a gem right there. Y'all hear that? Need that. So what I'm hearing, it sounds like exposure was a huge part of your journey from all levels, from reading, from being a walk-on, growing up. And talk to me how important exposure is when you growing up in the communities that we grow up in, the places that we want to go. We don't see too many people that look like us in those positions.
Right.
And in order to get to those positions, you have to expose yourself to people and things outside of that, and people and things that are aligned with where we want to go. So when we're talking about exposure, tell me how, or it could be advice to the student athletes, because I feel like a lot of us don't understand that concept. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
I mean, I lived in Hampton on Shell Road, and then I moved downtown to 26th Street. So, you know, there's not a lot of people in those areas that are, you know,
slim like, none. You might be one of one.
You know, that are growing beyond. And so you're right. It is exposure. Because, you know, whatever you see happen on a normal basis, you think is normal, right? And it could be good, bad, or indifferent, right? It could be, you know, something like that's tragic, but if you see it all the time, like it becomes normalized. And so that's what the exposure does, you know, whether it's reading or hanging around someone who is successful, where you see them, you know, getting up and go to work, or, you know, even to the books. I saw them overcome and win. And every book, and I'm like, oh, well then I'm gonna overcome this and I'm gonna win. Like, it almost becomes an expectancy as long as you're,
that mindset,
you know, in the process of doing the work and being consistent and, you know, knowing how to treat others, you know, always working hard, you know, doing more than you're paid to do, right? These are things that are going to lead you to no matter where you start, you know, that's going to help pull you up, you know, and you know, and it's something that you're going to have to remind yourself of, like, hey, my time is coming, but enjoy the journey. Like, enjoy where you are right now, you know.
That's a hard concept to grasp.
That is. It's challenging. It's challenging.
Definitely easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
How is that, like, just concept, like, just getting a concept of that, or just, like, holding on to that took me maybe up to, like, 3-4 years to really understand that everybody has their own journey, everybody has their own path, everybody has their own purpose that we're all trying to fulfill. When did you grasp that concept, or what helped you, or what keeps you going, or what keeps you like, this is just all about a part of the process? Well,
I can tell you exactly what helps me. Okay, just a short class right here on achievement, right? Let's say you wanna save $100, right? Having $100 is a lagging indicator, right? That means that there are other steps that lead to that. Okay, we're gonna call those leading indicators.
Okay,
right?
Follow.
Right, and so let's say it takes 100 days to save $100, right? So you would save $1 a day, right? And the leading indicator is going to be going to work, and they pay you $1 for 100 days straight, right? Just for an example. What you do is you don't worry about final destination, but you set your standard for $1 a day. So every single day you win, right? So now you feel like a winner on Tuesday, right?
Absolutely.
Because you hit your goal, right? And so it could be something like, for me, reading. It's never a goal to finish a book. I just want to read 60 minutes a day. And then I feel like I won right there. But now, if you keep doing that, well, the end result is you do finish a book.
Right.
And then you keep doing it. And then you gain. But I think, what helps me is just allowing every day to be a win versus having to wait until like whatever the actual end goal is. And you never have to worry about the end result if you're hitting your leading indicators. And that could be with any athlete who, has a goal to lose weight or something. Oh, well,
everything takes time.
Yeah, well, you already know if I walk my 10,000 steps and work out for 60 minutes, well, those are the things that can make you a winner every single day. And in the end, you will hit your end result, So it just kind of shifts your focus from being in some distant, far out place that seems kind of hazy and you don't really know how you're going to get there, to what's right in front of you, where you know what? I know how to get up and walk 2 miles, right?
Right.
And after you're done with that, well, you won today, So you can already call yourself a winner now, like, because the end result's going to come.
With time, right. As long as you're doing something. I always tell people, like, something is better than nothing.
Absolutely.
So even, like you said, we're working out. Everybody wants to jump back in the gym in the weekend. See y'all know it's not going to happen like that. Right. But like you said, you can start with walking 1 mile. Maybe tomorrow's 2 miles. Maybe tomorrow 2.5 miles. But celebrating each of those accomplishments
along the way
is important. Do you feel like you are currently fulfilling your potential, your full potential, or maybe walking in your purpose?
I feel like I'm right where I should be. When you say fulfilling, like, I kind of think of, are you there yet? No, but I feel like I'm on the path that I should be on.
So what's the end goal for you? Ultimately.
There is no finish line for me. So it's funny. When I was an intern with in Seattle with the Seahawks, the head coach Pete Carroll, he has so many one-liners that stick with you. But he had he had signs around the building that would say there is no finish line. Okay, you won a Super Bowl. Okay, well now what? Well now what? And so the end goal is to be consistent today.
I like that.
And achieve and do the things I'm supposed to do on this Sunday.
I like that mindset. It's never an end goal.
Because it keeps me in the moment, and it keeps me, because anytime I've tried to lift up my eyes and look towards what you kind of
off track.
Yeah, you kind of can stray off and, maybe try to overcomplicate it. Like, I want to be as simple as, like, don't overlook the power of simplicity, like just winning today. And so, I don't know. That's the right answer, but
I like that. I like that a lot. So you talked about your journey, and it seems like you took a lot of risks. Reaching out to scouts, not knowing. So talk about a time in your life, a time in your journey where a risk turned into a reward.
I can tell you one. I'm not sure if I got the reward, but it was definitely a risk. So I was actually in Norfolk at the time, and my internship with the Packers was over. Because it was only, actually my internship with the Packers was on a lockout year. So meaning that the players were trying to come to a negotiation to get back on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything was shortened up a little bit. So I ended up only being there for about 5 weeks. And so I come back to Norfolk, and I got an email back from someone who worked in Miami with the Dolphins, right? And so, in the email he wrote, hey, if we're ever in town or something, stop by or something. Like, it was something like that. And so I was like, And so I wrote back, oh, I'm just going to happen to be there in 3 days. Can I meet with you? I had no plans to be in Miami. I'm sitting here in Norfolk, right? But I'm just like, how can I force this to happen? And so he's like, oh, okay, well, if you're going to be here, stop by. So I got in the car and drove all the way down there from Norfolk. Just go meet. Now, nothing ended up coming from it, but I just,
But I think that goes back to that mindset, though.
Yeah, I just wanted to force.
Everybody doesn't get those invites at that level.
I mean, I kind of forced an invite because, like I made up, like, yeah, I'm just going to be in Miami. And he was like, oh, you are? Like, yeah, I am. So I'll see you on Thursday. And again, we spent like 30 minutes together, but I just knew I have to face enough no's to find the yes.
But you gained something from those 30 minutes, though, did you not?
Yeah. I met him.
So, I mean, you got your reward.
Yeah. Well, and it got me one step closer to the person that was going to hire me.
Right.
And so, you know, I just want to knock on every door until you find the one that's going to open.
Especially working in this profession, I think that a lot of athletes and a lot of people think that we make it look easy. We make it look fun working in the sports profession. Everybody wants to work around the hottest team, NFL teams.
Right.
It is very fun. It's very rewarding.
For sure.
It's a lot that comes with that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a lot that comes with that. You talk about your internships. How many internships did you have?
So I had 2. One the Packers, the Seahawks. Then I had a 2-year gap before I finally got hired on full time with the Bucs.
And that's what I was going to lead
2014, yeah.
What was that turnaround time till it turned into a full-time position?
Well, my first internship, when it was 2013 to 27, I graduated 2010. Yeah, so it was about 3.5 years from the first internship when I was hired.
Let's talk about that internship life.
You know, you just kind of know there's an end date. And you're trying to do anything you can to make an impression and do everything right. And, and I definitely did not do everything right. Yeah, I had one time where I had to take a car to take people to get medical checks at a hospital. Right? So, a player gets hurt, maybe he's getting an x-ray or something. You take him to the hospital. And I forgot to put gas in the car.
Did you run out?
Ran out of gas on the side of the road. I'm like, they're not going to hire me. They're not going to. So,
as an intern, I know you didn't hear the end of that.
Didn't hear the end of that. And in that same internship, so, I mean, I was alone. You get there. So, as a matter of fact, I was paid hourly. And so I was working like 125 hours a week. Right? So I'm there from sun up to sundown. And I fall asleep while I'm waiting on a player to get his x-ray in like the lobby of the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
I get back to the facility and my picture is up on everyone's desk, on everyone's sleep. And I'm just like, oh my God. So, there's going to be some bumps in the road. That was a real thing. And everyone was like, oh yeah, so you're working hard, man. Yeah,
100+ hours a week is crazy.
Yeah, but, Yeah, and so, hey.
I think that's the side that a lot of people don't see about working in sports. It doesn't turn off.
True.
It could be a 9 to 5. I could be in the office from 9 to 5, but working in sports, specifically football.
Yeah, it's not 9 to 5. It's
no such
it's 24
thing.
hours. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know me as the intern coming into that situation, I had no clue.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, it's a grind.
I'm great. That's what I had to go.
Yeah, I gotta go.
It's that amount of time working in sports, it doesn't stop.
No, but see, that's also why I would tell anyone, whether sports is their passion or not, to pursue your passion, right? So when those hours are required of you,
it doesn't matter. It's not.
You're like, oh, cool. Because I mean, I'm the guy who, if I'm not working in football, well, I'd be wanting to talk to you about football anyway. So like it's the same thing that I would do whether I'm paid to do it or not. So that's why I think every person almost owes it to themselves to pursue the thing that they're most passionate about, so that when they are faced with adversity, when they are faced with no's, right? Because I mean, imagine if you ask me to do some other job and I'm told no for 3 years, I'm probably going to say, oh, forget it. I don't want to do that anyway.
It's your passion, right?
Right? But, when it's something that you want to do, I can tell you no, doesn't matter. All it's going to do is force you kind of self-reflect, say, hey, where can I improve? What can I get better at? Whether it's interview skills or just when you're pursuing the thing that you like the most, well, then it's no pain to do extra and go the extra mile.
It doesn't feel like work.
Yeah. So
right.
That's kind of
So the world of sports can be all-encompassing.
Mm-hmm.
Could you shed light on how your involvement in football plays a role in shaping your daily life and character?
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, really in so many different ways, right? Because when you're a part of a team, regardless of the sport, there's so many things that the coaches impress upon you, whether it's teamwork and being dependable and, being consistent, overcoming losses, adversity, and setbacks, right? So these are all things that are foundational things that you need no matter what, right? And then now I have children. Well, those are the same things, right? Because they're learning how to walk and learning, their ABCs and, how to read. And it can be frustrating. So all those same things of, hey, reading 10 minutes a day it's better than never reading at all, right? Because really, it's not so much the skill that I'm worried about, but it's the habit, right? And we see it all the time. And so we demand it of our players. And it's best when you have the character within you that you're looking for in others, right? Because if you don't, it can be hard, being authentic, it can be hard to sense that if, hey, like, I want this guy to be passionate about the game. If I'm not passionate, how do I even know what that looks like?
Exactly. And there's a lot of lessons that we learn unknowingly as student athletes or former student athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Please tell me one of the biggest lessons that you learned as a student athlete that transferred over into the professional world, your personal life, just who you are today.
Yeah. I got to go back to that persistence. Just, absolutely, once you've made a decision, right, a definite aim of this is what I'm going to do, then go do it. And that's a little easier said than done. But so how I would say in everyday world, find people who've been successful in what you want to do before, right? Because someone has been successful at it. Even if you're making up, a whole new lane, well, someone has done something close to that,
right?
And they can help you, and even if you don't know them, well, on YouTube or read
YouTube
books,
University,
or find YouTube. Wow, yeah.
So you can learn anything on YouTube these days,
right? And so it's really taught me that really be persistent and find a teacher. It's funny now. If it's something that I want to achieve, I find a teacher for it. It could be working out. I would get a trainer. It could be, podcast. Well,
right.
I might call you like, hey,
right.
You interview people. Just find someone who's in the lane, because if you're pursuing it, well, every day you're going to glean things that may have nothing to do with it,
mm-hmm.
but you're going to find a takeaway like, hey, I can use that in this lane, or, so really just being persistent and curious, like always trying to learn more, knowing that you never have all the answers, and you can always learn and round out your game.
I feel like as athletes, that seems to be kind of hard for us sometimes. Of course, it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But are these lessons that you also teach to your players?
Oh, absolutely.
And do they quickly adapt? I know I was one athlete that it took me a little minute to really understand the importance of finding a lane outside of my sport.
Yeah.
How do you relay that message to your players? Or really just making it make sense?
Yeah. Well, I think you're right. Everyone can grasp that at a different pace, on a different level, because, it really says a lot about maybe their journey to getting where they are now, right? And so I think you just want to first, like, show them that you care, show them that, hey, I know that we're here to play football and do all that, but how are you doing?
That's huge.
And a lot of
people don't. We don't do
that.
Like,
I know that, I know you missed a shot, but how's your mom?
Okay.
Like, is your mom okay?
For real.
Because I feel like people are more receptive.
We're still human.
Yeah, like they're more receptive when they know that, because I know you're going to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes in evaluating players, right? But, just knowing that you as a human, like, I care about you. And so that's why maybe I'm suggesting this. And even if it takes a while, I think people are just always more receptive when they know, it's bigger than sports, because it is, right?
It is.
This is something that we do. We're passionate, and we learn lessons from it. But at the end of the day, I just want to see you grow as a human, and, and whatever goals you have, whether it's family or just anything you have. So I would start there on just the best way to give any message is to let them know I care about you beyond all this.
So do you have some players that want to be in your shoes, or they have conversations about making it to your level? Or
yeah, yeah. So I don't interact with our players on the Bucs once they get to the Bucs as much, right?
Right.
But I would say at the schools I go to, there's always players that stop me and say, hey, after I'm done, playing at University of Texas, I want to be a scout. How'd you do that? And I'm, always super receptive, only because of my particular journey. And I know, how it can help them, just giving them one more story, right? I mean, because some people just knew someone and they got on and it was easy. Actually, a lot of people, that's how it happens.
Yeah. More than few.
Yeah. And so, I always kind of want to be that person that can say, hey, even if you don't know anyone, right? Because I didn't know a single person that had ever done it, just start here, right? Like, hey, I can be your first connection, and then,
it starts,
right. Yeah, call me, text me, I introduce you to a scout on the Browns, on the Packers, and then, because
that's what it's all about.
Yeah, because the same with me, I can't tell you which door's going to open and when it's going to open. But if you keep knocking long enough and you keep growing, one will open for you.
Absolutely. And that leads me to my next question. Throughout your journey, who has been your role models or mentors that helped guided you to where you are today?
Oh, man, so many. I mean,
and talk about the importance of mentorship, not just in the sports profession, but really any profession. We all need a mentor. I know I had a lot of mentors coming up, which I know for a fact I wouldn't be sitting here without them.
Yeah. I mean, so it's extremely important, and I mean, even going back to the reading, I keep hitting that, but I kind of call those my conversations, right? Because I mean, even Kobe has a book. Well, of course I read it, and I never had a chance to meet Kobe, but I feel like I did because I read,
right.
I read the Mamba Mentality, right? And so, it doesn't have to always be someone that's around you. Maybe you grow up in a neighborhood where like there's not a lot of positive things going on, right? And so that can, but if you have the chance, go and ask questions and ask, because people that are successful, I've noticed this, they want to help you when you're curious and you say, hey, how'd you get to where you are? I mean, I've never had a person, no matter, how like high up the ladder, if you just go with a humble spirit and say, hey, I really want to learn. Like, can you show me kind of what you did? They're all, even if they're busy, they'll say, hey, I can't do it right now. Where's my contact information? Call me at the appropriate time. And so, I mean, I would say for me, it really started in my household of even an older brother or mom or a family, just seeing them get up and work hard and do it every day.
So would you say your family were your role models?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, and they still are. Heck, even my grandma, just came here from a retirement party, and she's 84. She plays the piano for about 4 or 5 churches.
Oh, she's
and they're
queen.
just,
yeah. Shout out to her.
Yeah. So she's, extremely hardworking and persistent and a teacher and always wanting to help someone. And so I see those traits and I'm like, well, that's something that, I want to be known for someone that helps other people, right? And someone that is dependable and someone that, people just know like, hey, has good character and, yeah. So,
a good person, right? Yeah. And mentors. I'm not asking about role models. And they could be different. Or they the same or?
Well, I mean, I feel like mentors maybe are really specific to what you want to do. And so, yeah, I mean, so for me, it's other guys who are general managers right now, right? And they're in charge of building their NFL team because that's where I want to be at on my scouting journey. And so, I ask them questions, when I can. And, even my own general manager, Jason Light, he helps me all the time in terms of just, it could be one sentence or it could be just watching him operate. And so, I'm fortunate to kind of be in the space now where I'm there to kind of see the ups and downs and see, some things we do that work, some things we do that, might be done differently the next time. So,
and I mean, that just comes with life too. As we go through things, go through different experiences. Of course, we all learn from different defeats. Let's see. We talked about your role models. We talked about how would you define leadership? And how has your understanding of leadership contributed to where you are now?
So I would define leadership as giving extreme clarity, right? And that might not be a definition you have at the time. But I think of the best leaders that I had, and they gave extreme clarity to what is expected of you, to what we want to do here, like what's the end goal, and how to do it, right? And so it empowers you, And so anyone that, I ever had the opportunity to lead, I want them to be empowered, like whatever your role is, this is exactly what is expected of you. This is what success looks like for you. This is what not meeting the bar looks like for you, right? And so, you know, I've just seen it allows people now to fully flourish in their own gifts of, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do here, you know? And I've had the most trouble when things are just kind of like, oh yeah, just, you know, it's not very clear. It's like,
no leadership.
Yeah. Well, like, did I do that right? Or am I, you know? And so that's how I define it. And, you know, and what's the second part of the question?
I pretty much answered it. I asked, how has your understanding of leadership contributed to where you are today in your approach?
Well, I mean, you know, I'm not per se in a leadership role by title now, you know, but there's definitely people within the organization that will call me and ask me questions. And so, you know, for me, it's just being dependable and being able to, if I don't have the answer,
find somebody
I'm going to find the answer for you.
Right.
You know, and know that, you know, if it's ever a moment, because I coached high school football for a couple of years where I was definitely in a leadership role then, you know, and those players still call me now because I demanded a lot of them. But if they want to stay late, I'm there. If you want to come early, I'm there. You know, if you want to ask me 10,000 questions at midnight, just call me, you know, because I felt like being dependable and showing them exactly what success looks like in their role now allows me to push them out their comfort zone a little bit. Like, you know what? That wasn't good enough. Let's do it again. Because they know it's coming from a place of, I really think you can be a better player than you are right now, but it's going to take this. And so, you know, that's just kind of now what I ask of myself. And those are the qualities I'm looking for. I mean, heck, I'm going to leave here tomorrow and go to Baylor and Texas A&M. And I'm looking for players that have these traits, you know, along with the requisite athletic talent. But beyond that, it's all about the, you know, it's all about the character. I mean, heck, I scouted this guy here, Pat Mahomes, when he came out of Texas Tech, and he had elite traits.
Fast forward to now, it shows.
Yeah, and and you know what? I actually got his athletic ability wrong. You know, I didn't think he was going to be like as a player. He was, but I knew he was super high character. He was the hardest worker. I mean, I could tell you a story about this guy that I don't think I've seen any other player do. But you know, they had a player at the time who was not, I don't know, maybe meeting some expectations, and he just went and like fully addressed it with the player in a way as if he was the head coach.
From player to player.
Yeah, and you know, and just that you could see that he held the standard at a high level. That when he said that, the player took it as if he was the head coach. And so, no, I mean, that's an impressive guy.
We all need people like that on the team
to
this day.
Right. Yeah. So.
And I feel like when we talk about leadership, it's impossible to not talk about teamwork.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're not necessarily in a leadership role, but you are still required to be a leader. And how important is teamwork to get the end goal reached?
Right. Well, I mean, you know, in the game of football, which is the ultimate, I mean, there's 11 guys in the field at the same time, right? And so, you know, if one person is not doing what they're supposed to do, well, you're probably not going to be successful. And same thing in scouting, right? We have a coaching staff and a scouting staff,
they all
with the same goal of we just want the best players to help win championships, right? You know, now how that looks, but that's why constant communication on, hey, this is what I saw. What do you think? Or, you know, if there's a disagreement, okay, this is what I'm seeing. What are you seeing? You know, and so, you know, teamwork is the ultimate kind of key that can really get you through the door of now we're all successful, right? Versus just I did my part.
Right.
I don't know about you.
Own thing.
Yeah, yeah. And so, you know, that's a dangerous thing. And you know, and that evolves, right? Because maybe if you're on a bad team and everyone ears are very open, right? What they're doing is not working. But when you have a little bit of success and you win the Super Bowl, like we did in 2020, and I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing, coach. You don't gotta, you know, I know what's going on. And it can go downhill pretty fast, you know?
Quick.
And so, you know, anytime you see someone with sustained success, whew, that's impressive.
Very impressive.
Because there's a lot of egos and just, situations and, I mean, in the NFL, well, now I won a Super Bowl, I got paid, I'm not as motivated. So there's a lot of different things that can hinder you from having, from reaching the top of the mountain is one thing, but staying there, that's a different challenge.
So how was that season post Super Bowl?
Post Super Bowl? Mm-hmm. After? Well, I mean, we were still pretty competitive. We made it back to the game before the conference championship and we lost to the Rams who ended up winning the Super Bowl on the last play of the game. I'm still mad about it.
I'm sorry I brought it up.
No, but I mean, that's kind of the journey of the NFL and,
right.
But I would say our coaching staff did a really good job and our players did of staying motivated, continuing to build, right? Realizing that, hey, last year was last year. And, so, it's a fun journey. But, anytime I get too sad, I can go look at the Super Bowl ring and just say, hey, that was a special season.
Everybody don't get one of those.
No, I need one more, though.
Let's get it. And you also talked about being very dependable.
Mm-hmm.
With you being a family man, being a father, being a husband, how do you find that balance?
Or
how did you set that balance? Because I know it doesn't come overnight.
No. Well, I mean, it goes back to teamwork, right? Because, I mean, even now, I'm not home. My wife is there and, taking care of the kids. And it's just, doing what you say you're going to do is a big part of it, right? Because everyone knows that, everyone can't be everything all the time, right?
Right.
But, if you're gonna, I don't know, take the kids to daycare, just kind of do what you say you're gonna do because it allows that trust to kind of build. And so now, we understand that things may evolve and hey, this month, we might have to do more, but then I can compensate here. So, it's just a lot of kind of teamwork and
communication, I assume.
Yeah. And communication, hey, I mean, heck, on the way here, and I'm doing this. And so just kind of all that communication just allows the trust so everyone knows what's going on and everyone can kind of pick up the slack where it's needed. So,
and I'm sure that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Right. And how long did it take you to get to that level of understanding or maybe a level of communication with your wife?
Yeah.
Like I said, it doesn't happen overnight.
No, well, if you ask my wife, I hope she would say I'm there now. I don't know. But no, I mean, it definitely took me a couple of years, right? Just in the sense that when you're in high school and college, you kind of just move to the own beat of your drum, right? And so,
exactly.
I would say it definitely took me a rhythm just to always have that person beside you, like, hey, they're considered in all decisions that you make. And so, but I know I'm vastly improved now, but you can always kind of be better. So that's the goal.
Being such a busy man, how do you stay on top of your emotional wellness, mental wellness as a man?
Yeah. Well, see, I've always kind of said, don't wait until it goes bad to address it.
That's the word.
And so heck, I just read a book, The Mountain Is You, and it was about mental health, and it was an excellent book, just about how it's controlling your emotions and not letting things build up and having open lines of communication, and because everyone has different things that can maybe bring stress or overwhelm them, right? And so my tactic is just to always be coaching myself, right? Always be reading books, right? Versus maybe there's a tragic moment and then you see a therapist, which is a great thing. But my thing is, how about I always see this therapist 24 hours a day, and all throughout the year,
right?
Just verse it. And again, it may not be like an in-person session, but I have to go back to the reading. I'm just, always kind of getting that therapy, whether it's in business or mental health or sports or spiritual, right? And so I'm always trying to tie in those four things to always get coaching, right? So that now when there's a bad event, or I wouldn't say a bad event, when there's a challenge, right? Because challenges are a part of life.
Mm-hmm.
Almost how we said, adversity is a part of success,
right?
But when they come, you have so many references in your mind of how to handle this, almost like with players, everything we coach, we say, hey, put this tool in your toolbox. And at some point you're going to need it. And so Same thing in mental health is, being able to have an open conversation or, understanding, hey, I can handle setbacks better if I get 8 hours of sleep versus if I get 5, because then you might be overly like emotional when things happen. So really understanding what's your process like, but constantly doing, and don't wait till something goes wrong, do it as often as you can. So.
Right. So we talk about challenges. What has been your biggest challenge that you had to overcome? They could be playing, it could be working, it could be at home, personal.
Yeah.
And how did you overcome it?
The biggest challenge, I mean,
we all see him all the time.
But. Yeah. Well, so I mean, I got a few areas that were things at the time that I was not very pleased with. One being like financially, from growing up, there was ups and downs, and so that was an area where I said, you know what, I really want to attack this and learn about money management and learn, because I would see it can bring a level of stability, like I know people say money isn't everything, and it's not, but it brings a level of stability. Whereas when things go wrong, if your tire goes out and you have no money, that's the worst thing in the world, and you're stressed out about it. But if your tire goes out
and you have the money
and you have the funds, well, it's a 2-hour delay, right? And you're like, oh, that was oh man, And so that was one area that was a challenge of, hey, I really need to learn what's the best way. So as I evolve into an adult, I can handle that. I mean, heck, in football, being a walk-on was a challenge, just because my first year, I was still sitting in the stands, even though I'm on the team practicing. And so just, hey, how you going to handle this? And good thing I had references in my mind of other people that had been through similar situations, and I took everything that they learned and applied it to myself and kind of accelerated my own success. And so,
Did you teach yourself that financial literacy through reading or mentorship or just the willingness to know?
Yes, it was a constant pursuit. There's a there's a guy named Dave Ramsey. He's obviously super famous, has a podcast and everything. And I would say for years, I never missed a single episode. I wanted to learn everything that he could ever say, read all his books, and then anyone I knew who was old and finances, well, I'm gonna say old, anyone I knew who was,
older.
Yeah.
There we go.
much, much later in life, I would ask him, hey, what things helped you? What things tripped you up? And so then, I would just take, and whether it's simple concepts of, hey, live below your means. Like that's a huge one. That's a foundational thing that, can at least give you some wiggle room there. When things happen, you have money saved, so, yeah. And even now, as you evolve through life, there's different stages where you need different tools. So you always have to keep learning. And so, yeah. So I'm still reading and learning and thinking, okay.
So as you continue to progress in your career, how do you envision passing on your expertise and knowledge to shape the next generation of football professionals and or athletes?
Right. So, actually, funny you asked that. So we're doing an internship now with high school students in Tampa. And it's the first year that we've ever done it. And it's myself and one of my scouting directors, Rob McCartney. He kind of helped set it up. And then it's 3 of us. And so we're mentoring now high school kids, because scouting is an area that's really unknown, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone knows about playing, obviously, and coaching, but they don't really know about, the scouting side and evaluating the talent and, everything that comes with that, from free agency to trades to signing players. And so it's kind of like a background thing. And so we're just educating them. And they just went to a preseason game, and we kind of go over how to watch film and how to take notes and how to evaluate every position and the skill sets and the attributes when I go to practice. That's what I'm looking for. These are the questions I ask to gain more information about their character, their learning, their work ethic. So, we're doing that now. And, it's something I love to do and help out in any camps. And personally, in the years coming, I'm going to start a separate internship just to really kind of tie in scouting and football along with life lessons. And so, yeah.
Would that just be for high school as well?
No, I'm gonna do that for high school and college. Yeah. This is people that are, still young and still maybe don't know their exact direction, but just kind of want to pour into them and say, hey, these are the lessons I learned, and, take them around with them.
Yes, and that goes into my last and final question. For Xposure, we're here to tell sports stories, to tell experiences, and really exposing our stories, exposing the things that we've gone through to get to where we are.
Right.
What do you want to expose for the next generation? What is it that you wish that somebody would have told you? Maybe that you see there's a lack of in the new generation. So what facts or what gems could you drop for us?
Yeah. I would say for the new generation, don't be afraid to be different, because I know that kind of there's these three things are cool. And if you're not doing these three things, then like we don't really, but I would say that listen to that voice inside of you, right? Because most of us have a voice that when you're doing something, you're like, this isn't for me, or this is what I really want to do. But they might not, look at me the same if I do this. Just pursue that thing that's in your heart. And if you don't know, that's where reading and constantly learning, because now you're going to be exposed, the people that grew up maybe in a whole different time period, in a whole different country. And it's going to show you like, oh, you know what? I like this. I'm reading about a doctor. I might want to be a doctor. I might want to be a lawyer. I might want to, host podcasts, right? And once you decide what you want to do, don't ever stop. Ever.
But thank you so much for stopping by. I truly enjoyed your story. I hope student athletes, past, present, and future, have gained a few gems from Donovan Cotton. And good luck to you this season.
Thank you.